All right, well, thanks everyone for coming out today to hear about the new curriculum program for the MDiv. I know that a lot of you have probably had questions all year long, ever since you first started hearing about this. Some of you might be a little anxious. I'm hoping that today we can help settle any nerves that you might have in relation to this plan. And so thank you for coming to hear about this. And first, Dean Luis Rivera would like to say just a few things about the new curriculum and how we're hoping that this will help address many of the questions that have come up in previous years.
Good afternoon. I hope that this presentation will help all of you to understand better what the faculty has decided to be the new Master in Divinity curriculum. The faculty has been engaged in this process for the last 2 years, and we are completing the work this year. So the goal is to implement the new curriculum next year. I'm going to summarize 3 dimensions of the new curriculum that I think are special issues of what we're trying to do, and then the registrar will go in more details about it. First of all, the new curriculum will reduce the number of semesters hours from 87 to 80. That may not seem to you a significant reduction, but in terms of what we are about here is both reducing costs and the possibility of indebtedness that the students have by having longer programs, right? So we were trying to address those issues. And it's also a tendency now present in higher education and in theological education. Shorten the degree so that people can get what they need is right in a shorter period with cost savings. Secondly, the new curriculum revision also brings new foundational courses. And this is the issue of formation. What we are after, I would say, I'll summarize in this way. We want ministerial leaders, no matter whether they are ordained or lay, to have a public, intercultural, and spiritual mindset and heart in serving God, humanity, and the church. And these are strong themes that will come now into the forefront and across the new curriculum. Having a public, intercultural, and spiritual mindset and heart in serving God, humanity, and the church. Thirdly, the new curriculum allows and promotes the opportunity to complete concentrations of your choice by using the general elective courses. And the goal here is to have a degree that is more adaptable to the vocational needs and interests of students. We know that there are some of you who would like to complete the MD, who will certainly be engaged and go to congregational settings. And we know that others are looking forward to serve in other settings besides congregations or churches. And we are trying to design the program in such a way that if you select the MD, you have that choice. It's right to adjust the program to those vocational interests where you think you're going to spend time working out your ministry in different contexts. So we have designed a process, a transitional process, by which you'll be able to migrate, we hope, easily into the new program. And we will work closely with those cases that need special attention and accommodation. So don't worry, if anything happens in this process, we'll take care of you. We will accompany you in understanding the needs and making the appropriate accommodations. So the registrar will continue speaking on all these issues and probably other items in more detail. Thank you and enjoy your lunch.
Thank you, Luis. So Shane helped pass out a handout here. I know a couple of you came in a little late Are there people that don't have a handout? I will email this information out to everyone a little later. So there are two pieces to this handout. So the first side just has the new curriculum laid out on it in the kind of the grid format like we currently use. But there are a couple of new features here. So one, obviously, as Dean Rivera pointed out, this is a slightly shorter curriculum. It's 80 semester hours as opposed to the 87 of our current program. Second, we've sorted the courses just a little bit differently to show how it is that they're supporting the goals of the program. So rather than trying to sort everything out into, well, here's your Bible courses, and here's your history courses, and here's your theology courses, we've kind of grouped them into the foundational courses. So these are sort of the underlying bedrock of the program. These are the things that we think is really important for those going into ministry, whatever that might look like, to know to help support that ministry that they're going into. The second then group of courses here would then be the required electives. So these electives cover all the different areas of the curriculum. They help guide you into some new places in the program. The integrated courses, so this would be the field education and leadership development, which will still be in place. And then the general electives, which you may note is a little bit shorter than in the current plan. What we're hoping that you will find in this plan is that this new plan is a little bit more flexible than what we currently have, and that it will really promote supporting you in whether you're going into congregational ministry or other forms of ministry in the world. So the first section of this is our foundational courses. So some of these are going to be brand new courses. One of the first courses that we're going to have students taking in the new program is called Introduction to Theological Education. And this will be designed to kind of orient people to the kind of study that you'll be doing in seminary. So it'll help you work on doing the research and the writing and developing some of those skills that you might not be coming into seminary with, as well as working on some of the things related to plagiarism and things like that that are a concern in academia as a whole. Practice and Theology of Christian Spirituality will be a place for you to learn about and develop the different skills related to different spiritual practices. Person and Community will be a course designed to speak about some of the different things in the curriculum. Cross-cultural immersion, global Christianity, and then some of the core courses that we currently have that will be carried over: Introduction to Hebrew Bible, Introduction to New Testament, History, and Introduction to Theology. So we're hoping that this will provide a good grounding for students both as they're starting in seminary and to help support them as they begin to build on that as they go throughout the program. Just a couple of details here about these foundational courses. One of the intentional things that faculty are trying to do here is to bring many of the co-curricular requirements that are currently part of the program more fully integrated into the curriculum. So for example, the Introduction to Theological Education will help orient students to writing and identifying and avoiding plagiarism. Person and Community will cover elements related to human sexuality and cover the boundaries workshop training that we currently have students do as sort of an extra thing. And then all students will be doing a cross-cultural immersion experience during their very first year. And this will include both classroom portion in both the fall and the spring, and then several possible immersion experiences throughout the year in between, so that students will have some different options of immersion experiences that they can participate in to help develop their own cross-cultural and intercultural sensitivities. For the field elective, this will be 30 semester hours of the program. It's very similar in some ways to what we currently have with a few slight changes. So one of those changes is students in the new program will be required to do 3 courses in Bible and history beyond the core introductory courses. But there's flexibility built in there so that if, for example, you wanted to wind up taking, say, 3 history courses or 3 Old Testament courses, you don't necessarily have to take 1 additional elective in each area. Theology electives will be broken up a little bit. Most likely, we will not be offering the current slate of Doctrine of God, Christology, and Pneumatology like we currently are offering. There will be some other offerings that will be developed. I'm still hoping to hear soon what those are going to be, and we'll be trying to get schedules for next year posted as soon as possible, but obviously with the work we're doing this year, we're a little bit further behind on that than we normally would be. There will be some changes to our to the ethics course, though I do understand at least for the next year they'll continue to offer the Christian moral theology course that we currently offer, but they will be working on developing a new course that will be possible starting in the next year. There will be some changes to several changes to the practice of ministry courses, though. These courses are going to be retooled and redesigned to be more relevant to students that are planning ministries perhaps beyond the local congregation, so that they'll begin to address some of the needs of how you begin to use things about preaching, worship, Christian education in settings that might not be in a local church. And so they're developing some new courses here, and those courses, I've actually gotten the names of those courses, though I don't have much more detail than that. And so you can see those on your grid here, what some of those new core courses will be in the program. And so we hope that you'll be able to enjoy some of those new courses. Yes, and so the new courses, as well as any courses that wind up continuing in the program, will be retooled with an eye to both intercultural sensitivity as well as traditional and non-traditional forms of ministry. And that some of these courses could be used to serve towards concentrations in the program, so that if you're looking at doing an MDiv concentration, some of those might be built into some of these required electives that are part of the program. I'm really excited about some of these new courses and looking forward to them. Some of them are versions of the courses we've taught in the past, and some of them are going to wind up being brand new courses. So looking forward to those. For the integrated courses, that area, the number of hours related to that has been shrunk a little bit. And it has really three key components here. So the first piece of that is in years 2 and 3, there will be a leadership seminars for each of those years. Those will be a single semester. They'll be offered both semesters, but you'll be able to take those in one semester or the other. So you don't have like a full year extended leadership training thing. And so they're trying to get those into each year. And what they're trying to do is build those, design those, so that those will really help develop, first the skills that you need to have just thinking of yourself as a Christian leader and how you begin to integrate the stuff you're learning into the classroom into working in ministry in the wider world. And then in the third year, beginning to develop additional tools that you need when you're in a leadership role outside in the world. So you'll begin to develop things like looking at how you develop boards and things like that, committees, budgets, all those fun things that you get to do when you go out in ministry in the world. And then you'll still have field education to do in both years. And I do understand there that we are developing components of small group reflection that will continue as a way of supporting you directly in the ministry that you're doing in your field placement sites, so that you'll have that, and those small groups will really be keyed more around supporting you in that ministry setting and won't be about trying to teach you a whole bunch of other things too. Then in the final year, they're working on a whole brand new different final project for students. For some of you, you might get to do this in your third year. For those of you that will be finishing up next year, we will have to fit yet one more year. So I do apologize for those of you that might not be looking forward to that. But there will be a new senior colloquy and senior project for the final year of the program. That'll be coming in 2 years from now. And this will really be designed for you to be able to develop a ministry project in the field placement setting that you're doing in your final year. And the idea and hope is that this will be a project that you can develop and then be able to take with you to be able to implement again later on. So it could be, you're developing, some sort of ministry project directly related to something specific in your ministry site, but it might be something that you can take with you and use again later. So the hope is that you'll be able to develop something and receive the feedback on implementing that in one site, and then be able to, tweak that and grow that and be able to take that forward with you. So it won't just be an academic paper that you're going to sit and do this year and just be done with it, and it's never has any relevance again. And then finally, the elective hours have shrunk just a little bit. So you'll see there are a minimum of 15 hours completed for elective credits. One of the things that the faculty have done is built in flexibility here so that students could do up to 24 hours of elective credit, so that if you are trying to fit in, say, some denominational requirements, or you're trying to finish up a concentration and you haven't quite got all of that fit in together, they've allowed for you to be able to expand the program a little bit so that you would still have scholarships available for you for up to that amount if you need to go beyond the base 80 hours of the program. So we're trying to build in some flexibility there, and recognizing that, not everybody is always going to be able to complete everything they want to in that set 80 hours. So we want to be able to give you the opportunity and the flexibility to expand that if you need to, in order to finish. If you're trying to finish both denominational requirements and a concentration and you can't quite fit that into the single 15 hours, we want to be able to work with you and try and develop ways that you can do that. And still have your scholarship coverage for that as you go into the program. So that's the quick overview of the program itself. Now, the question that y'all are asking is, okay, what does this mean to me? Well, what I'm hoping is, and what our thought is, that, having a 7-hour short degree is really looking good to me right now. And so we're working on the assumption that pretty much everyone is going to be going into this under this new curriculum. So what that will mean, in some cases, some of the courses that you won't have taken will wind up being waived, particularly some of the first-year foundational courses. We're not going to make any of you go back and take Introduction to Theological Education in your second or third year of the program. So please don't worry about that. So on the back side of your page, the color side, the side with the green and the yellow on it, we put together kind of a base transition plan. This is what my office will be working off of to try and translate. All right, what have you already done? How does that fit in the new curriculum? How can we help you be successful in completing your program in as few hours as possible? And so it's kind of a little color-coded. It's not exact, but the yellow courses primarily relate to those courses that would typically be taken in the first year. The green courses are those that would typically be taken in the second or possibly third year. So this would just help give you some idea of how we're going to be working with you and your advisors to help make this transition as easy and seamless as possible. Because it really is our hope that first, that you'll enjoy the flexibility that this new program will offer, and that hopefully you will enjoy being able to get out of here with 7 hours fewer in your program. And quite frankly, some of the courses that are currently required in the program might just possibly not be offered again. And that's just one of the things that is currently being planned. Since we're transitioning to a whole new curriculum, we're going to try not to have to offer 2 different sets of courses. So for example, I'm assuming many of the theology courses are probably not going to be offered again after this year, or at least not consistently. So those are just some of the things that we are thinking about and trying to help you think about this transition plan. So hopefully, I know that Andrea has already been doing some work with those students who are in their first year. So the students that she's been working with this year on helping with the advising, she's already started some of the transition planning and course planning. Over the rest of the semester, Tina and I will also be working on trying to help everyone else begin to think about how their current courses that they've already completed or they're currently taking fit into the new program and help them plan what the next year will look like. At this point, I've gotten probably about a third to a half of the course projections in from faculty for next year. I'm hoping to get just a little bit more than that before I put a draft schedule out, but I will be getting courses for next year posted just as soon as I possibly can. Normally I have that posted by now, but as I said, because we've been through the fall semester and even still just in the last couple of weeks, we're still working on developing and finalizing some of these new courses. So that's really put us a little bit behind on the course planning, but we are working on that just as quickly as we can. So that's really pretty much all I have to say myself, but I am open now to any questions that you might have for either myself or Luis that hopefully we can help answer for you to help hopefully allay any fears that there might be remaining, or to answer other questions. I would prefer questions that are kind of general that might apply to multiple people rather than just individual questions. But Kyle, I saw you first.
Yeah. So for the second years generally, we're about to go into midpoints with our faculty advisors over the next couple of weeks. And so I guess one question is, what are y'all doing with them to prepare them for those midpoints so that we can come out of the midpoints with a sense of what we need to do?
Okay, that's a good question. Okay, so Scott's question is, many of the second years are approaching the midpoint evaluation, and what is being done to help prepare the faculty advisors for that meeting so that we can help everyone plan for next year. So the short answer is that all of the faculty have been involved in this curriculum planning and these conversations and are aware of this transition plan. That has been shared with them, and so they are aware of how we are going to be translating those courses. The longer answer is, because some of these decisions weren't even made until December, we're still trying to get caught up on making sure we get all that information translated. I really hope that I would have been able to have this meeting with you in the fall, because I know many of you would have liked to have had this information even before registering for the spring. Sadly, I just wasn't able to get that plan due to where we were in the process. But we will be trying our best to get the updated information. So we'll be focusing our efforts on getting the grids translated over on the transition plan on those that will be doing their midpoints this spring, so that we can make sure that you and your advisors have that information going into the meeting. That help?
Yeah, that helps. I think the question is so that 300 students aren't coming to you to say,
right,
I've taken Christology and Doctrine of God, but not Christology.
Right.
How does that work, and how does that line with denominational requirements, and how does that line go?
Exactly.
And so that we can have confidence when we go into that meeting in 2 weeks.
Right.
That we leave the meeting
Okay.
knowing where we stand.
Yeah. So yes, in general, the plan is that we will get a base transition plan out to each of you, just showing, here's what you've already taken, here's where it would fit in this new curriculum, and so here's what would remain for next year. The second part of your question, so if there are particularities as far as, okay, I need to do X, Y, Z for my denomination that's not really reflected here, that's something you can come and talk to me directly about. Thanks. Brittany, I think I saw you with a question.
Yeah, it's kind of, you touched on it a little bit. I recognize that there's only 3 credit hours required now for theology. So for those of us who have completed like the trifecta, are those like now electives or what?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, the short answer is so for those that have already completed all of the current core theology courses, because there's only 1 theology elective required in the program, yes, the other 6 hours do wind up then just going into the general electives. But that's also the plus, I guess, of the flexibility of the program, so that hopefully we can still work with you to help you make sure you get what you need as far as a concentration and things like that, and your denominational requirements in as few hours as possible. Yes.
So when you were describing the senior project versus the fifth, it sounds great to me. So
yes.
I'm wondering why we do not have a choice to do the senior project versus the fifth for second-year students.
The only answer I really can give at this point is that the faculty are not anticipating having that ready for next year is part of the answer. The other part of that answer is when the fifth was created and we tried to make everybody do that, everyone said, no, that wasn't part of my curriculum, I can't do that. So we're also trying to be sensitive to the fact that this is a curricular change that not everybody necessarily is is on board with. So it's one of those weird places where, well, the last time we tried to do this, everybody said, no, you can't do that. So we went into this saying, all right, well, we're not going to make everybody do this. And, you know, I mean, it's one of those weird places where I'm not expecting it to be ready to roll out next year based on current planning for that process. And also we were anticipating that, well, some people might get really upset that we're trying to make them do something that they haven't been planning for the last 2 years, and we didn't want to try and impose that on people.
I think this is very important to understand. Some of the projects, that is to say, the capstone course and the project that you'll do culminating your program, needs to be built upon what you learn throughout. That's right. So it took this faculty a little bit, a couple of years to understand that. And I wasn't here, but I understand that the first renditions of Philip became very problematic. And we discovered in the assessment that we have not planned backward, that's right, to make sure that the skills required to complete the project were in place. We don't want to commit the same error again. And therefore, that requires not only the design, but the training of the faculty to conduct the new summative project for the MD. We are considering, you know, among others, the option of project-based kind of summative projects. But there are, as you know, those of you familiar with higher education, there are at least 2 versions of that. One that is more theoretical, in which the students explore and do research to answer a problem and design an answer, which is not necessarily be implemented. And there is another version of the project-based in which you answer a fundamental problem or question and then design some kind of intervention. And so this is a new terrain for a theological faculty, and so we need to take the time to decide on a model, train the faculty, and then look again backward to make sure where are we building the knowledge and the skills for you to do that kind of a project. And so we're giving us a little bit of more time to do it well.
Yes.
So I'm a second year, and I'm noticing the only new requirement that I'm noticing is Intro to Global Christianity.
Yes.
Is that correct, that now everyone has to take that?
It is strongly recommended. One of the things that we have discovered this year is over the last year, I've had 2 annual conferences reject the current offering that we have for mission of the church in the world for those that are United Methodists. However, this course is specifically designed to help meet that requirement. So if you are United Methodist in particular, we are strongly recommending that. It is a good course, and it is recommended, particularly for the world that we're going into, where we are going to be interacting with multiple iterations of what it means to be Christian and multiple iterations of what it means to be religious. So we strongly recommend that. We are encouraging students to do that. If you've already done the current Introduction to Global Christianity course, that would take the place, but we will be recommending that students do take that course if they have not already.
But if we're not United Methodists and we have other...
We can certainly have a conversation about waiving that requirement and having you complete something else. The hours would remain the same, but we can certainly negotiate on that.
Okay.
Yes.
If we haven't done the cross-cultural component, is the cross-cultural immersion available to us, or are we still doing the old way?
I know that we haven't 100% decided on that. I know that one of the conversations that we've had in relation to the cross-cultural immersion experience is that for those that have already completed a cross-cultural requirement, we will for certain waive that requirement. For those of you that have not completed the cross-cultural requirement yet, that we are, at least at this point, hoping that that will be an option for you to be able to participate in the cross-cultural immersion that is being designed to start in the fall.
And
Yes.
connected to that, I think this has been answered before, but if you are an international student, like you still have to do that, right?
Yes, being an international student in and of itself does not necessarily include the theological reflection that is intended to go into understanding what it means to be in an intercultural ministry. Yes.
So, are there going to be any changes in concentrations or like additions to or dropping of concentrations?
At this time, the only concentration I know for sure that we have had to drop is the urban ministry concentration. And that was simply because Scoop suddenly decided they're not offering seminary level courses anymore, which came as a big surprise for us about a week before the semester started in the fall. Beyond that, we don't have intention of getting rid of any of the current concentrations. One of the hopes with this new curriculum, and one of the things that faculty have been saying, is they want to be able to offer the flexibility of students being able to create some different concentrations than what is currently being offered, so that students might have the option of designing a concentration perhaps even specific to them, or that we might design a concentration that could be offered that other students might take as well. So we are looking at the idea of concentrations. We're not intending to get rid of anything, but it should be possible to create some new ones under the new curriculum. Yes?
Yeah, so I heard you mention that like some courses will not be offered that are offered this semester or have been had. So what is the best way to like navigate all of that so that you're taking courses really deep?
The best answer to that is if you're already taking it, it will fit great into your program. If you're not already taking it, it's probably not going to hurt you, because the way the new curriculum is designed, probably the only thing that could be potentially problematic for anyone in this year is if you're a first-year student and for some reason didn't take Bible content, we'll have to figure out a way for you to make up those 2 hours somewhere, because Bible content won't be offered anymore. But those 2 hours are being slated to take the place of 2 other hours in the program on the transition plan. And the same with VFCL, because VFCL is no longer going to be offered. We're going to be working with everyone on looking at different ways of meeting the expectations of the new program. So if you're taking the first year VFCL now, for example, those 4 hours will count towards two of the new courses that are designed in the curriculum. If you haven't taken that, we'll have to figure out a way to negotiate how we might have you make up those hours or perhaps take some of the new courses. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so like this is sort of like, well, I'm getting the vibe that it's created so that we can have a freedom to decide which courses we want to take.
Yes.
But as far as the foundational courses that we don't necessarily need anymore, we just have the freedom of like.
Right, so if you're a first-year student, the courses that we recommend that all first-year students take in their first year translate almost seamlessly into the new foundational courses in the program. So if you've taken those courses, that's great. If you're in the second year of your program, you'll wind up having a little bit less flexibility just because you may have already taken some courses. But we're still going to, as far as the Bible and history and current field requirements for the practice of ministry, all of that will just transition directly towards whatever the requirements are in the new program. So the only place it's likely to affect you is if you've taken some courses, for example, the theology courses like Brittany mentioned. If you've taken more than one course in addition to Introduction to Theology, those additional courses would wind up going towards your electives, and that could affect you. But beyond that, we're going to make this transition as easy as possible for everyone so that it won't be a problem for anyone. Yes.
Well, okay. So I'm, as you know, I think I've had conversations with people before. Like I'm caught right now in the midst of transitioning or trying to transition, and because I'm in the MDiv program and I'm a music ministry concentration.
Sure.
My first question would be, what other music classes or classes surrounding congregation worship and music are planned on being offered in the near future? Outside of those that are currently offered, I mean, I think the only ones that I know of are like human worship or something like that. It's something that's kind of more pertaining to those of us that want to study Black sacred music. We see also maybe joining together of what's going on in the new Black sacred music program with what we're doing in the MDiv program, if we want to do music industry concentration, we see some changes to that feature, some new classes.
Okay, so that's not exactly directly related to this curriculum transition. And all I can say is I'm not directly involved with the faculty on planning exactly which courses are being offered. There are certain courses that I tell them we need to have every year. So I don't know anything beyond the current music ministry courses that are being offered that we are intending at this point. I do know that the one word that I've heard is that for example, the Center on Sacred Music Center for Worship and Music in the Black Church Experience, is that right? Or is it worship and music or music and worship? Music and worship. Okay, so I know that the offerings that are currently being planned for that center are not designed as seminary level courses. They're designed to be of wider interest and perhaps offer continuing ed credits. It could theoretically be possible that an independent study or something of that nature could be designed around some of those, so that the stuff that's included in the offerings that are being made through the center could be part of a study that's being done for seminary credit. But right now, we don't have necessarily plans to offer other offerings. Okay.
So what would that look like then for music ministry concentration going forward? And I know you said to ask more general questions.
Sure.
I don't know if anyone else is going to use music.
All I can say about that is that the minimum requirements for a concentration are that you do 15 hours of work in that concentration area. You develop a portfolio in consultation with your advisor. Anything beyond that, any specific requirements beyond that are set by the individual field. So that would be a question for our current advisor who works with music ministry students, not something I can answer.
Yeah, let me say that the faculty is now in the process of redesigning the other Master of Arts, connecting to what we have done in the Master in Divinity. So that there's going to be particularly the core, what we're calling foundational courses, will also be part of the MA in some form. Is right. So that the new philosophy, the new understanding of what we're trying to accomplish in terms of theological formation and ministerial formation, which is core or central, will hit all degrees. But then, each degree has its own integrity and require electives and so forth. So keep in touch with Dr. Ron Anderson, who is the director of the Master of Art in Music Ministry, to pose those questions.
All right, I saw a hand over here.
I've already asked one, but if there's not another question.
Oh, okay. I thought you had one.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think the challenge I'm having, and this relates to Laura's question earlier and Bernie's question, is
sure.
So if what courses we've already taken get slotted into elective credit, and then there are new requirements that we weren't planning for, like Intro to Global Christianity, and the careful planning that we've already done for the 3 years,
right, plus
courses that are not going to be there next year, puts a large amount of uncertainty on our ability to meet graduation requirements and coordination requirements.
Sure.
And I appreciate all the work that's gone into it, and I know that y'all are working really hard to get some certainty. But we don't have much time. We don't have much time to get our ducks in a row with boards and those sorts of things, and it's feeling a little bit unclear to me what's expected.
Sure.
Especially for those of us who have only one more year and have already spent a lot of time carefully planning the puzzle so that we finish on time.
Sure.
And because if things that were required are now electives, I could very easily hit 89 hours before I even met requirements.
Okay. Well, again, what I will say is for those of you that have the specific questions like that, those are things that I will work directly directly with you and your advisor on to help make sure that we still get you out of here in 87 hours or fewer. So that's my commitment to you. You will not have to do more than 87 hours to finish the program, period. It is my hope that everyone will be able to finish in less than that, but I can only assure you that we will not require you to go over that. Yes.
I have two questions.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering if there are any additional handouts.
Yes, I believe there were, is there a couple extras in here? Okay. Yes,
Then
ma'am.
my second question is, to what degree does the new curriculum change affect those who are already in the process of training?
I would say that the answer I just gave is the answer. We're going to make sure that everyone finishes 87 hours or less. So if you're already into your third year and you only have 1 or 2 courses to complete, chances are you either will hit your 87 to finish, or we might end the semester and you find yourself suddenly done. I mean, that's the answer to that, is that, you know, depending on how that transition works out, once we plug in everything you've already taken into the new program and balance everything out, it is our commitment that you will still get out of here in 87 hours or less. So some of you may even find out that you get to the end of the semester and, hey, wait, I'm actually done now. And, you know, which could be good news for people, and you wind up getting your diploma mailed to you in October. So there you go.
Yeah, just a quick question, primarily for the first years, just to go back to the field ed clarification. If the student wants to do, say, a concentration in history, did you say that then you could, in effect, double dip say the student takes 9 history electives, those then count towards the 15 on the right side of the grid in the bottom?
Okay, so the short answer to the concentration question is there are a minimum of 15 hours required in the concentration. It's up to the faculty in the field to decide that concentration has been met within those stipulations. So if they choose to count those 9 hours, which is the intention of the way this plan is designed, then yes, those would be part of those 15 hours.
But ultimately, it's up to the advisor.
Yes, that ultimately winds up falling to the advisor.
Second question.
Yes.
You said that you have to, if you want to go over the 80 hours and maintain your scholarship, you would need to either declare a concentration or have requirements from your.
Well, I didn't actually say that. I just said that the plan of the program is designed that you can go over 80 hours and still receive your scholarship. Up to 89 hours.
So the bottom line is you don't have to document the requirement that you need it, say, for a concentration.
I suppose if someone wanted to stick around and take an extra 3 courses, we don't really have a rule that says they couldn't.
And they'll still get their scholarship.
Although I would say this, I think we're going to monitor that, because if you don't need the courses, yeah, I mean, if you're completing the courses with the plan and objective that you project, you're going to do that in 80 or a little bit more. But you will not be allowed to accumulate more courses than you need for the program unless that's justified. So if you want to, I think, complete a concentration plus your denomination of courses up to 89. If not, less than that. I mean, the purpose is for you to have the option of doing your degree in 80 units, having everything in. The key is that if you want to establish a concentration and you still need those denominational courses, that's where the additional going up to 89 might be necessary.
Yes.
On that note, then, as a student who receives scholarships and who spent time taking 15 credit hours every semester, so that I would graduate with 87, all I have left basically is electives for my last semester here. Does that mean that I'm not going to be allowed to use my scholarship for any courses in my last semester because it's not for a concentration? Or am I basically being asked to graduate early minus a bit? Am I allowed to take, yeah. Can I take electives, or do those get taken away from me because my time is
I can only say that based on what I understand of the curriculum, that you can take those electives. I understand the dean just said something a little bit different, so that's apparently something that I need to have a conversation about.
That's also
That was not my
something that is
understanding.
communicated to students via written policy, and it's currently not.
Yeah, because
The exchange there is.
yeah, because my understanding was simply that we built in the flexibility for students to have the additional hours if they wanted or needed them. And that's as far as my knowledge of it goes, and so I'm interpreting based on that, but it sounds like there may be some different ideas there.
Let me clarify again what I said. If, for example, and we need to think in two tracks here, the United Methodist students, and those who are others, right? If you are a United Methodist student who would like to make a concentration and finish the United Methodist Studies requirement, you have then up to 89 credit hours to combine all that, okay? And I'm thinking about new students.
That's
Okay,
the question, because when we came into school, we were given a degree grid,
Yes, exactly.
which we've been working against.
Exactly.
And the degree grid is now being changed in the middle of our second year. And what it sounds like you're saying is that certain classes that we thought we could take, we now can't take.
No.
And so
No.
what needs to be clarified, and I don't want to speak for Anna.
What we're saying is for the new students,
Okay,
those
that's not
who
what
are
we said so
in the
far,
middle,
so-
in the process, as being said, we'll work with you so that you can complete everything in 87, okay, credit hours or less, whatever is your choice. So in that regards, nothing will be taken away from you. Up to 87 units that are required for the current degree. In making the transition, we'll figure out is right, so that there is no waste in whatever you have done or what you would like to complete in terms of you were promised that you were allowed to do.
On that note, I hear you and I think I'm okay with it. I would encourage though, that for students coming in, that they be allowed to take electives, even if it's in the same way that we are with this flexibility, even if they don't want to fit in a concentration. Part of the beauty of electives is a well-rounded education, and so to say that you are limited unless you're doing a concentration seems.
Yeah. Well, that's a faculty decision, but I'll take that idea as a faculty.
Are there students on that help with curriculum revision at all, where students ask about any of their thoughts?
Students were asked to complete surveys over the last 3 to 5 years related to the curriculum revision process. However, all the other planning that has gone into this has been pretty much exclusively faculty. So.
And how were the recommendations from the Sacred Word taken into account? Sacred Word and Service Trust taken into account?
You'll see that in particularly one of the new courses, person community.
Yeah, those questions are being taken into account. That's what I was trying to get across with the design and redesign of both new and continuing courses in the program. They are trying to take those considerations into account, as well as Dean Rivera was just saying, the person and community course that's being developed for the first year is partially being designed to explicitly take those comments and considerations into account. Yes.
There's a section, I believe on the portal, and I'm trying to, I know it's not Google, but where you can look at your progress to date as far as attaining your degree. Will your former courses now fall into the new pathways or?
Once we get all the transition planning done, yes, all that will be communicated clearly to you and your advisor as soon as we have that information available. Anyone else? Just any questions from the outer world? All right. Well, thank you all. I really was hoping that this was meant to be hopefully a reassurance to those of you. I'm trying to share the information that I have received about this process. Most of this transition stuff has been planned on me after receiving the curriculum itself. And I just want to reassure you that I will work closely with any of you that have really specific questions about this to help make sure that we can cover your program and cover the courses that you've been planning on or taking so that you can get out of here with a well-rounded degree. So thank you all for your time. I really appreciate you coming, and please come see me if you have other questions.